We're going to be talking about belly button piercings today. Summer is just around the corner, unfortunately. So now is actually a very, very good time to get that belly button piercing you've always dreamed of if you want to show it off this summer and go swimming and maybe even wear something dangly and cute in it. Before you get one though, let me tell you everything that you need to know about belly button piercings, like the different types. Yes, there are different types, what jewelry you can wear, aftercare, all that good stuff. If you enjoy these types of videos and you would like to see me make more, please let me know by leaving me a like and maybe consider subscribing, because it does really help me out a lot and you'll also never miss another one of my videos. Before we get started, let me put out my usual disclaimer. I am not currently a piercer. If you would like to get a piercing done, please go to a reputable shop, and if you happen to have any issues with your existing piercings, again, also please go to a reputable shop to get your piercing looked at. I think that's it for my disclaimer. Let's get into the actual video before I get any more rude ass comments telling me I yap too much. Watch another video if you don't like me yapping. It's part of my allure. Let's get into the actual video for real now. Whether you can get a navel piercing in the first place, / what type of navel piercing you can get or you should get, heavily depends on your anatomy. And unfortunately, not all navels or belly buttons. I can already see myself using those two interchangeably throughout the video. I'm sorry if that annoys you. I can't help it. Unfortunately, not all navels are shaped in a way that would accommodate proper healing. So not everyone should get navel piercings. I'll get into alternatives in just a second, but let me break down the two most common types of belly button piercings, which would be a traditional navel piercing and a floating navel piercing. As a general rule of thumb, in order to be a good candidate for either a traditional or a floating navel piercing, your belly button needs a sort of lip of skin either at the top or the bottom, though the bottom is much more rare, to be able to support the jewelry. That lip needs to be visible both when you're standing up and laying down, and your belly button also needs to be deep enough behind the lip to not push out your jewelry. For a traditional belly button piercing, your navel should also not collapse when you sit down. If your navel collapses when you sit down, you are more likely better suited for a floating navel piercing. Of course, there's some more intricate technicalities to it, but the main difference between a traditional navel piercing and a floating navel piercing is the type of jewelry that's used, because for a floating navel piercing, you will have the bigger gem on top versus on the bottom, and usually with floating navel piercings on the bottom, you'll just have a flat disc, because those are done on people whose navels collapse when they sit down, and you want to avoid any pressure from like jewelry being pushed up into the piercing, if that makes sense, which is why the floating navel kind of came into existence. The disc just reduces pressure on your piercing so that it can heal properly. Of course, a traditional and a floating navel piercing look slightly different. If you have or you plan on getting a floating navel piercings and you would prefer the look of like stacked jewelry versus just the big one on top and then nothing on the bottom, you could ask your piercer about a J-shaped piece of jewelry, which makes the bottom gem or the bottom ball sit more forward than a regular curved barbell, and in turn it would kind of recreate the look of a traditional navel piercing on a floating navel. Did that make sense? Maybe. I hope so. Of course, if you don't have the anatomy to support either of these belly button piercing variations, whether it's because you don't have that lip or because you have an outy belly button, whatever it is, there are absolutely ways to fake the look of a belly button piercing, perhaps with a dermal anchor or a surface piercing, which I'm not going to get into because they are kind of controversial in the piercing world. But those are options, and if you go to a reputable piercer and have a consultation with them, they will absolutely tell you if you can have any sort of regular navel piercing or if you need to opt for an alternative. If you don't want a needle shoved through your stomach for whatever reason, you could obviously also get just like a clip-on belly button piercing for the vibes and just like show that off for a cutie beach day and then never have to worry about it again, which is also valid. I love a clip-on piercing. Jewelry. For initial jewelry, you're probably going to be looking at a curved barbell, usually in 1.6mm thickness, sometimes 2mm depending on your piercer. For attachments, you can pretty much go wild, although I wouldn't recommend anything too dangly or ornate because it can make healing and cleaning difficult. Save those for once your piercing is healed, because at that point, the only limit is your imagination or your wallet. You can wear dangly things, you can wear sparkly things. Once your piercing is fully healed, you could even wear rings or clickers. There's so many options and all of them are absolutely gorgeous. With floating navels, your jewelry options are a little bit more limited. I personally wouldn't recommend rings or clickers in floating navels because of the pressure issue when sitting down and when your navel collapses. You could wear dangly things on the top gem, whatever your heart desires, but you're a little bit more limited with a floating navel versus a traditional navel piercing. My personal favorite jewelry material is and will probably forever be titanium. If you prefer the look of gold or you're just very rich, yellow, white gold, rose gold are all perfectly fine options as well. With belly button piercings, you are looking at a healing time of about 6 to 12 months until it is fully healed. As with every other piercing, there is also the potential for swelling, so you will likely get pierced with a piece of jewelry that is slightly longer than what you will end up needing, and you should get that switched out to something shorter at around 4 to 6 weeks. For general aftercare, you're going to want to clean your piercing once or twice a day with sterile saline solution. My personal favorite is the Neilmad brand, as always, patiently waiting for my sponsoring. I'm kidding, but I'm not. And just leave it alone as much as possible. If you live in a very hot, humid climate, you're going to want to make extra sure that your piercing stays dry and clean, because if it's hot and humid, it's just a perfect breeding ground for bacteria, and we don't want that. We don't want that. You're also going to want to avoid clothing that directly puts pressure on your no piercings, like bottoms where the waistband is across the belly button, belts, shapewear, as well as swimming, sauna, any exercises and stuff where you bend over a lot, like crunches and sit-ups for the first month. One of the probably most frequently asked things regarding belly button piercings is, well, what do I do with it when I get pregnant? Do I have to take it out? When do I have to take it out? What's going to happen with my belly button piercing when I'm huge and like a week away from giving birth? And honestly, you don't have to take out your belly button piercing when you're pregnant at all. There's no medical reason that you would need to unless it gets irritated. If it's perfectly fine, then it's perfectly fine and you can leave it in. Obviously, if there's redness or pain around the piercing, you should take it out, but there's plenty of people who never did their entire pregnancy and they were fine. Their piercing didn't stretch out, their piercing didn't reject, which are all obviously possibilities, but just like listen to your body, and if you're unsure, just take it out to be safe. If it's healed enough, you'll likely be able to just plop the jewelry back in once you're done being pregnant, or in the event that you can't just stretch it back open, you can obviously get it re-pierced, no problem. The only thing when getting your belly button piercing redone is that you should give your body enough time to heal after giving birth, and you also shouldn't be getting new piercings or things re-pierced, because that still counts as a new piercing for your body while you are breastfeeding, because your body needs the energy to produce milk, you know, and not to heal any piercings. If you do want to keep your belly button piercing in during your pregnancy, the 5-ish month mark is usually when people will switch to longer jewelry, just because they start getting kind of uncomfortable with their belly growing. There are like really long flexible pregnancy bars. The thing with those is people are kind of divided on the material they're made out of. They are usually made of PTFE, which is a kind of plastic. It's complicated. In my own personal opinion, I don't think PTFE is as bad as some people make it out to be. If I had a belly button piercing and I were to get pregnant and I had my heart set on keeping my belly button piercing open while being pregnant, I would probably opt for the PTFE jewelry. That's what I would do. It's not what I'm recommending you do. Do your research. There are bendy, long pregnancy jewelry pieces, is all that I'm trying to say in very many words. TLDR, you can absolutely keep your belly button piercing in while you're pregnant. If you have to take it out for some reason, you will more than likely be able to just plop it back in after you're done being pregnant. If not, you can absolutely get it re-pierced 9 times out of 10. And for some people, with the way their body changes during pregnancy, they will end up with that lip above their belly button, even if they didn't have it before. So sometimes pregnancy will make you be able to get a belly button piercing, even if you couldn't earlier, which is so cool. So cool. And that is all I have for you today. If there's anything that maybe I didn't answer that you would still like to know, please feel free to leave your questions in the comments and I will be happy to chat with you to the best of my abilities. Also, let me know in the comments if you have a belly button piercing, if you want a belly button piercing and you're here doing research, which good for you. Honestly, genuinely, I wish I had done that before I got mine twice, which didn't work out because I just don't have the anatomy. Or if you already have a belly button piercing, or if you would never get one. In either case, I hope you had as much fun as I did and you learned something new. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and listening to me yap about piercings once again. An extra special thank you to my channel members. If you would also like to become a rap baby, you can join up here. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!